folks. Hello, everyone. Sorry that took so long. It's a much colder day than usual, so when I started, putting the water in the kettle and getting the kettle to boil, it was actually taking a lot longer because the water in the pipes is really, really cold. So I was waiting for the water to just boil. But let me go to my channel so that I can read your guys' comments. View channel. There we go. Turn down the audio. Alright, so I'm sure there's already a lot of people here, so naming off everybody isn't going to work this time. But hello to everyone. Thank you all for joining me. Puddin says, is it normal to have 5 cups of tea a day? I guess so. I don't know. My grandmother used to have 5 cups of coffee at least a day. I don't know how she drank that much coffee. She drank it like it was water. She would make coffee in the morning and have at least 3 to 4 cups. Then she'd have sometimes even just a late morning cup of coffee or 2. It was crazy. Or we'd go to a restaurant and she'd order coffee in the middle of the day, 3 p.m. or something, after she's already had her 4 cups of coffee in the morning. And it was actually kind of funny because at one point I had a roommate who was a coffee expert, and so he liked to make single origin coffees at home. He had this crazy setup with all these fancy gizmos and things, and he could only produce 1 cup of coffee at a time because he'd do pour overs. And he did it a very special way, had the freshest coffee. And so my grandmother came over for Thanksgiving one time, and my roommate Brian, he offered her coffee, and so she said, yeah, of course. So he makes her a cup of coffee, and she just gulps it down, and it's gone. And she was like, can I have another cup, Brian? And he was like, yeah, okay, So he makes her another cup. And then within a few minutes, she's got it completely gulped down. This is piping hot coffee, by the way. And she asked for another one. And so that goes on like this. And he looks at me and he goes, wow, she really drinks a lot of coffee. And I say, she does. And my dad can be the same way. He can drink just a ton of coffee in the morning. And I'm just like, how do you drink that much? I can drink maybe 1 cup and I start to feel I don't know. I don't like the way I feel. I feel clammy and sweaty, and I don't, there's something about coffee that just does that to me, and I don't like the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel jittery, and it's the caffeine for sure, but I mean, tea has caffeine, but it doesn't do that to me. So yeah, it's it was pretty funny. Let's see here, and just do that. And okay, so sorry, just had to deal with something real quick. But anywho, Sandy says coffee is my drug. I love coffee. Yeah, I used to love coffee too. I used to drink so much of it. Yeah, it is cold today. What temperature is it? Honestly, it might not be that cold today, but well, it's 40 degrees outside Fahrenheit. So that's actually somewhat normal for this season. It should really be more like the high 30s for this time of year. They were telling us on, in the news that our weather this time of year is unusually warm. But we're supposed to get snow in the next couple of days. So I'm looking forward to that. Although most people don't look forward to it because they have to drive in it. And it's kind of crazy to drive in snow. Especially because up here the snow tends to just freeze. It doesn't stay as a powder. It kind of just freezes because the temperatures suddenly rise a bit. But I'm still looking forward to the snow. Every year I love going outside and seeing the snow. Alright, so let's start brewing up this tea. And pour out half of this. And half of this as well. So, there we go. Hopefully maybe this time I'll finish my tea. Last time I barely drank 1 cup, and then I didn't even eat the sandwich that I made last time. So I didn't make a sandwich this time because I wasn't sure I'd be able to eat it. I'm not particularly hungry today, so there we are. Just let that heat up a little bit, and I'll talk to some folks here. Where do I start? Jeez. I can't pronounce your name. I don't want to try to pronounce it because I might just ruin it. But tea is the calm caffeine. Coffee is when you want energy to karate chop a tree down barehanded. That's pretty true. Rena says the habit starts in high school and college. Gotta stay up and do homework, I guess. That is true. I did really start drinking coffee in high school. Let's see. Leo says, how's it been going for you recently, Alex? Love your streams, and they enlighten me with so much knowledge and fun. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. How's it, well, I guess to your first question, how's it been going for you recently? I've been so busy. I mean, just unbelievably busy because, like, for instance, yesterday I published the repair update video for the Queen Mary. I ended up staying up till 4 a.m. that morning because I wanted to have it published on Friday. You know, because most people are available Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so I was like, I don't want to publish this on, you know, in the middle of Saturday when, you know, people are about to head out to dinner or something. I wanted to get it done for Friday. So I stayed up till 4 a.m. finishing it up. And I was so tired by the end. But yeah, so, but besides that, I've been working on that big surprise I've been trying to tell you guys about. And I'm rushing to get it done because I plan to have some somewhat famous people try to review it and comment on it and stuff. So I want to have it completed enough that they can look at it and go, oh, I see the potential with this, you know. Because by the time I release the big surprise to the public, it won't be 100% done. It'll be a good fair amount done, maybe 80% finished. But by then I can start slowing down and really work on the finer details of it. But yeah, I still need it to be at least 70 to 75% complete before I show these famous people the I might as well say it's a website. Yeah, so yeah, I've been rushing to get that done. So Alan, on this channel, I try not to mention my favorites of anything. My favorite videos, my favorite Maritime artists, my favorite, you know, content creators. I try not to do that because I know so many people. I know them, I've talked to them, and if I choose one as my favorite, it's almost like saying in front of your group of friends, like, oh, this is my best friend, you know, like, it's kind of like, whoa, you know, you just don't, so I don't do that, so I don't tell people my favorite of anything. But, TNS Rock says, great Queen Mary update video, sir. Glad to see renovations are continuing and that Sir Winston's will reopen soon. Yes, definitely. There's a lot of work going on the ship. And mainly it happens during the week when there's fewer people. But even then, my friend Chris was there on a Thursday, and it was so crowded. Sometimes he was having trouble walking around, just getting around because there were so many people. I mean, I saw it on the video. I was like, this place is crowded. I've never seen the Queen Mary that crowded before, and most people haven't seen it that crowded in years, decades even. So yeah, the ship has been really popular lately, especially during the holiday season, but it's been really popular lately, and that popularity is only growing because there's a lot of people visiting the ship, having a good experience, going home and telling their friends and family about it, and then their friends and family want to go. But that being said, there's still a lot more work to go, because I know sometimes the management at Queen Mary watches these live streams, and if you're listening, there's still a long way to go. Unfortunately, I had a friend who recommended his aunt and uncle to go to the Queen Mary because he loves the Queen Mary, and they went and they were not impressed. They were just like, yeah, we did everything in 2 hours, we're done, there's nothing else to do. In which I told my friend, I'm like, I don't know, I could spend a whole day there and not finish doing everything, but that's the thing, is that people don't know that there's a whole day's worth of things to do. And in some cases, if you're there to be entertained or to have some kind of activity, there's very few of those kinds of things on the ship, in which there should be more entertainment and activities on the ship. So that's one of those things that they've got to work on, is putting more of that on the ship. I've been saying for years, like almost ever since I first started doing Queen Mary videos 4 years ago, that they should use the first class main lounge on Promenade Deck as a main lounge for hotel and day visitors. They should hold, there should be daily live music or live performances on the stage. It could just be like something simple, like, an up-and-coming comedian or an up-and-coming illusionist, or maybe, someone, there's a cellist who wants to eventually work his way up to being in an orchestra, but, for now they're on the Queen Mary. That kind of thing, like, bring in those people, and then, when they're performing, serve some refreshments. Especially, like everybody's been saying, do an afternoon tea. I mean, I know it seems that, Americans probably don't want tea, but actually, if you do a real afternoon tea, there's a lot of, like, food and pastries there. Americans love food and pastries, especially if you serve it with coffee or tea. And so, people will go. Just do it, It's like my motto for everything. Just stop talking and just do it. So, all right, I got to get this tea going. So I already heated this up a lot. Now I just dumped the whole thing out. But, I think one of the reasons why they haven't opened the main lounge to everyday visitors, I hear rumor that people on the ship are worried that visitors will destroy the room. Just, because, there have been parts of the ship that have been vandalized by people who come by. Let's see, 121, so 125. There are parts of the ship that have been vandalized by day visitors. Like, look inside the elevator. The doors of the elevator are like these really nice chromed doors. Some might say it's nickel silver. It looks like chrome to me, but anyway, there's these really nice shiny, nickel silver or chrome doors, and unfortunately, someone, whoever, whenever, I don't know when it was done, but somebody just went in there and carved some graffiti onto it. And, there's a few scratches here and there from just wear and tear of the doors, but someone just cared so little for the historic aspect of the ship that they just carved, like, some word or name or something onto the doors. Both sides, by the way. Both sides, because it's a dual door. Both sides of the door. And I was just like, you know, it takes a certain kind of jerk to do that. You know, like, you gotta be a real, like, just... I don't even want to go down into that path. But, you know, it's just like... I don't understand how people can do that. You know, I've never understood why anyone could be so callous and disrespectful to something historic. And, you know, I've been to historic places, you know, all over the United States, and you see graffiti on them and stuff like that. Just all kinds of stuff. People carve into it, chip into it, you know, or paint over it. Just stuff like that. And I never understood how someone could have so little care for something that's so old and historic, you know. They just look at it and go, whatever, you know. And a lot of times it is, like, young people, like teenagers, but sometimes adults do it, too. Okay, so... Mark says, Alex, was the airplane door blowout at your airport, Portland, Oregon? I might have passed an article that said something about a door opening up or something, but I don't recall. I didn't read it, so I actually don't know. If it was at Portland, Oregon, then yeah, it would most likely be the Portland airport. They call it PDX. Ozzy says, we had fog 3 days here in Fort Mojave, Arizona. No pirates. That's good. Puddin says, snow. Us in the UK used to get snow up to our waists, and now we barely get 2 millimeters. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I used to hear a long time ago about the crazy high snow drifts in the UK, and then usually nowadays when you see pictures or video of people in the snow, it's just a few, you know, just a few inches, a few millimeters of snow. You can call me Alex. Oh, okay, I'll call you Alex then. Munzer says, what's better in your opinion, tea or coffee? You know, I've had some really good coffees, but the majority of coffees I don't like. I tend to put a lot of cream and sugar in them just to give them a pleasant flavor. But there are a few, like a very small handful of coffees where I could just drink it black, no sugar, and be totally happy with it. But I would say that my favorite tea is Earl Grey. And I could honestly have that with just a little bit of sugar and no cream, and it would still be just amazing. So I don't know. I don't know. And most of the time, I put cream and sugar in most of my black teas anyway. So it's just like having coffee in that sense. No, you know what? When I really think about it, if I was trapped on a desert island and someone said, do you want tea or coffee? I'd just say, give me the coffee. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it would be coffee, actually. But that's just the simplest way to decide. You know, you just go like, okay, what would you rather be trapped with? Would you rather be trapped with tea or coffee? And I would probably choose coffee. But I do really enjoy tea. I drink more tea than I drink coffee, especially Earl Grey. I have this bag of Yorkshire Gold I have to get through. I don't like it as much. It's very, very bitter. But it's not bad. So I do enjoy it. I enjoy it more than I enjoy the Irish breakfast tea and the Scottish breakfast tea, that's for sure. The Irish and Scottish breakfast teas are really strong. Yeah. Very bitter. So, it's time for the tea. Ow. Ooh, this lid is hot. It's burning my fingers. Okay, there we go. Now we just give that a stir. Get it all mixed around. And then it goes there. in this teacup, I'm just going to give this teacup a quick rinse of boiling water just to reheat it. Because it is, like I said, it's cold today. And I prefer cold days all the time. Because, you know, you can always wear more layers when it's cold. But when it's hot, you can only take off so much before there's nothing else you can do. But the other thing, too, is that when I do these tea time streams, it's always best to do it on a cold day, because then I can wear the jacket, I can dress up nicely without getting hot and sweaty. With all these lights on me, there's at least 5 lights set up around this vicinity, and they get hot, and the room gets really hot, and the computer staying on, live streaming it all in the corner of the room, that heats up too, and then drinking hot tea, it just gets really hot during the summer, so... But yeah, doing tea times during winter is the best. Okay, so let's get... Corey says, I have watched that video and I'm excited for future ones. Are you talking about the update video? Let's see. Leo Ship History says, sorry to bombard you with questions, but could you give us some history on the items behind you, such as the porthole? So the porthole is just a prop. It's not an actual porthole from a ship. But, you know, the idea was... You see, if for those who have been watching these tea time streams since the beginning, I first started at my studio apartment doing these tea time streams, and behind me was just this poster, or that one behind me too. I switched them out, but behind me was the poster, and then that was it. And there was no decoration, and I always wanted to have some kind of... I wanted my tea time streams not to look like just a live stream in front of like a wall or something, but more like almost as if you can pretend that that I'm on a ship, having tea, because that's what the stream is supposed to be themed after. It's supposed to be themed after, an ocean liner. And so when I moved into this apartment, I realized I had this corner of my bedroom that I could totally transform into that, and I could, set up all of my maritime historical stuff and all that kind of junk. And so, I just set it up that way, and I bought the porthole because I wanted it to look like I'm in a cabin on a ocean liner. I'm not sure how well that comes across to you guys, though. I don't know if it looks that way to you, or if it just looks like there's just a collection of stuff behind me. But I like to pretend, so. There's a lot of stuff behind me. I don't know that I want to get into all of it, because I feel like I explain it almost every live stream. But just a quick run through. This Cunard poster behind me, that my head mostly covers up, is not original, but it is a very old copy. And my friend Jason, he saw it at a thrift shop and was like, "Hey, I'll get this for Alex because he loves Cunard ships." So he got it for me. And what it is it's the Aquitania coming into port. I think it's post-war Aquitania, so probably 1950s Aquitania coming into port. I think Southampton, actually. And then, so that's not historical, but on the shelf there's a few historic items. The tallest item is the dinner menu, or lunch menu. And the lunch menu is a second-class lunch menu from the Queen Mary, and it's dated August 30th, 1939. Sorry, I had to think about it. August 30th, 1939, which was the final peacetime voyage before World War II began. It was on that voyage in the middle of the Atlantic on September 2nd, that the passengers were gathered around the radios to hear the news that Britain was at war with Germany. And on that voyage, they were a moving target. So the crew had to paint all 2,000 portholes black, so that way the ship didn't light up in the night and give away their position. And they made it safely to New York, and the ship stayed there for several months until the next year, when it was converted to a troop ship. So there's a little bit of that. Next to it is another smaller card. It's called a program, and that's a piece of paper that kind of talked about what was happening that day on the ship, the kinds of entertainment and stuff that was happening that day. And that one's a first-class program card, so it tells all the stuff. But that one's dated, I think it's 1939, it's 1930s. But it's not the final voyage. It's some other one. And then behind it, which you can't see because it's completely covered up by the program card, is the race card. And the race card was also dated to the 1930s. And the race card is basically they used to pretend to do like horse track races. So they had like these wooden horses set up. And they would roll some dice, and that would tell them how far to move forward. And they would move each horse forward with the roll of the dice. And you would like take little bets on like which horse would win the race. and so they had the race card, which told you all the information and stuff like that. And especially when they were doing the horse races on the ship and stuff like that. So pretty interesting. I'm sure the ship has the race horses somewhere still today. Pretty sure, but I don't know. And then, of course, I have my whole collection of authentic Queen Mary china. Sorry, that was overflowing. I had to drink it. All my authentic Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth china. So I collected it over the course of several months. It cost a lot of money. It is probably the most valuable collection I own of anything. For sure it is the most valuable collection I own of anything. Even my really expensive model trains in my other room does not compare to how expensive all this was together. But yeah. It is real bone china, Foley. The oldest piece dates back to 1952. The newest piece dates back to 1967. The metal stuff is not part of it, though. So the demi-tasse spoons, the tea infusers, those aren't part of it. In fact, they would have just dumped the loose-leaf tea right into the teapot, and then what they would have done was, over the teacup, they would have had a strainer, a special silver strainer that they would have strained the tea into. I don't like that idea because there's ways for the tea to get stuck in the teapot. There's like a little ceramic grate, not ceramic, but china grate in there that lets the water through, but then there's a little chamber in there you can't really get into to clean. And so if tea ever got stuck in there, I'd never be able to get it out. So I don't like putting the loose leaf tea right in the teapot. I instead use a tea infuser. But yeah, let's see. Trying to catch up with some comments here. I don't read every comment, you guys. I can't do that. It's just too many people. But what I do is I look at the comments that I think I could answer, things I could respond to, and then those I'll usually read out loud. But I do read them in my head. I read every comment in my head. I just don't read them out loud all the time. Puddin says, I'd love to visit the Queen Mary, but in my opinion, the staterooms are far too bland. Have you seen the wood-paneled staterooms? Those are really nice. But there's a lot of staterooms on the ship that... See, I was talking to someone yesterday who said, oh, it's a shame that they converted so many of the rooms to just, like, white walls. And I was telling the person they didn't have to do that. Like, it was already like that. They're on decks A and B, on both the bow and the stern areas, there are... Towards the bow, there are former third class rooms that are converted to hotel rooms. They didn't have decoration in them. They had the furniture, the Cunard furniture, but that was it. They didn't have decoration. They had white walls. And then you go to second class, which is towards the stern, and even you walk down, like, for instance, the B-deck hallway. You walk down the B-deck hallway, and you get to a certain point where the wood paneling in the hallway ends, and all of a sudden it's just, like, wallpaper, like white wallpaper. That's second class. And then you go into the rooms in second class, and there's no decoration. It's just white walls. And that's because it's second class. They just didn't have the wood paneling in every single room. And then even in first class, there are small rooms you can rent today that were originally part of the bigger room next to it. And those are the servants' quarters. And the servants' quarters weren't decorated either. They didn't have wall paneling. And so today the servants' quarters are available, and they're the smallest rooms on the ship that you can book, and they're usually the cheapest, but they're not decorated. And so some people think that they did that in the conversion, that they just removed the wood paneling in the conversion, but in most cases that's not true. It's just they never had wood paneling. And so it's those rooms that are very underwhelming to a lot of people. I don't blame them. They do look underwhelming, you guys. I know some of you are really diehard Queen Mary fans are like, no, keep those rooms as is. But when you come there to the Queen Mary and you want to stay there, they are very underwhelming rooms. They are just white walls, and there's maybe one painting that the hotel put up in the corner. There's no decoration. It's sad looking. And so it's those kinds of rooms, not the wood-paneled ones, because I know people always think I say the wood-paneled ones when I'm about to say, but it's the white-walled rooms without decoration that I think they should make them look a bit more modern. They should try to put some kind of, like what B340, they put a wood paneling on the bottom half of the walls. So they call it a dado. So a wood-paneled dado along the walls. They should do that to the other rooms that have just white walls. It'll help break up the whiteness of the room and give it some class. And then they should put, some nice furniture in there, something nice looking. And, and maybe do a few more things here and there with the rooms, but they should bring those rooms up to a slightly more modern looking style that is a bit nicer looking, and that way they can sell those rooms as the contemporary rooms on the hotel, because there are a lot of people who visit the ship who, believe it or not, they know they're staying on a historic ship, but when they see the room that they get, they're like, oh, this is old, and they don't get it. They don't understand this is what you signed up for. But yet there's a lot of those people who go to the Queen Mary and just don't realize they're going to get an old room. They're going to get a room with an old flushing system to the toilet, with, some wear and tear to it, because it dates back to the 1930s. So they don't get it. And those people are the ones that leave bad reviews. So they should offer some contemporary rooms on the ship that used to be non-decorated third class or second class rooms, and then offer that as a contemporary option for people who just are not happy with the wood paneled rooms, and leave the wood paneled rooms to people like us who enjoy them. So that's what they should do, I think. Moonzer says, Alex, do you think October is the busiest time of the year for the ship? Honestly, there's no way to know right now, because the ship just reopened. There's going to be a different flow pattern to the crowds. So we haven't seen a full 365 days yet. So let's just wait and see, and then we'll know. So yeah. Somebody says that they're not getting any video or audio. Well, I would tell them to refresh the page, but if they're not getting video and audio, then they're not going to see my message for them to refresh the page. Thank you, Christian. The Fat Hat says, did Queen Mary ever suffer or was at risk to a pirate attack? To my knowledge, no. There was never a pirate attack. And honestly, the Queen Mary probably could have outrun the pirates anyway, so... okay. I gotta catch up, because a lot of these comments are old. Puddin says, Alex, I think you should invest in a bigger afternoon tea table. We don't want the phone to fall off and break. Yeah, what you see in front of you is not here by accident. It's here because this is what fits. I know it looks like I'm in a huge area, but that's because I have a wide-angle lens. So the wide-angle lens makes it look like I'm in this big corner of the room, but I'm actually stuffed here in this tiny little corner with no space to move. And the table must be lifted much higher. I mean, look, the table comes up to my chest. So it must be this high so that way you guys can see the tea set. And, so it just doesn't, there's no room here. Like, I have barely room to fit my hand between this table and this little table here. So this is all that fits. And I'm sitting on, like, a little, like, shoe stool, like a stool you sit on to put on your shoes, because there's no room for a chair in this corner at all. There's no room for a chair. So, yeah, I know it looks much bigger, but it's because it's a wide-angle lens. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. Jeffrey says, how's your model railroad coming along? I haven't worked on it in a couple months because for the holidays we had family coming over for dinner and stuff a lot. So I had to, like, take stuff. I was using my dining room as, like, a storage area for some boxes and stuff. I had to move those into the office, which is where I keep my model railroad. And now you can't even get into the office. So until I, put away the stuff in the dining room that, I have, like my sister brought over, like, a plastic table and chairs and all that kind of stuff for us to sit on for the holidays. So until I put all that stuff away and get that area cleared out and move things out of the office and get it back into the dining room, then I can't work on the railroad at all. And plus, I don't really have the money to work on it anyway, because right now the next step requires more stuff to be purchased. So I have to wait. I have to wait on that anyway. But yeah, eventually when I get all that cleared out and I get back to working on the model railroad, I will be able to start doing live streams again from the model railroad. Michael Marin, about your ocean liner question, I'm actually right now making a video about that, so I'm not going to answer your question just yet. There will be a video coming out next week about it. Harry Morrison says, aren't portholes typically larger than the one on your wall? Well, again, this is a wide-angle lens, so it makes it look much smaller than it really is. This actually is a very large porthole. It's what do you call it? It's the size of one of the small portholes on the lower decks of the Queen Mary. So like one of the ones that is on like D deck. So, but yeah, it is a size of a regular porthole. It's just that it's a wide-angle lens, so it makes everything look smaller in order to capture the whole corner of this room. Which I remember when I was buying the porthole, there was an option for a ridiculously large porthole. I was like, this is not a realistic size. But I should have like bought it because I didn't realize how small everything in the background would look. Let's see here. I lost it, but someone asked whether I'd like to watch or read a graphic novel about the Queen Mary's history or something like that. I don't know where it went. It's gone. But yeah, if it was good, I'd read it, you know. The Fat Hat says, I heard that at one point, due to the lifeboats being exposed to the elements, a person's foot accidentally tore through a rotted hull of a lifeboat. Did they have tarps? Wait, did they not have tarps or covers? No. So the lifeboats, when the ship was in service, yes, they had tarps and covers. But first of all, when the ship came to Long Beach in 1967, a lot of those lifeboats were very, very old at that point. They were just not in as good a shape as the ship itself, especially because the steel on the lifeboats is not as thick as the steel on the hull of the ship. But after the ship came to Long Beach, they had tarps and covers for a short while. Then they were exposed. Then Disney put tarps and covers, and then those rotted away in the mid-90s, and then the lifeboats were exposed for like 25 years, and then that's what finally did them in, was that they were just exposed for so long to the weather. And they also, lifeboats have, I forget what they're called, but they're just a drainage hole on the bottom designed for draining rainwater if it ever gets in, because sitting rainwater in steel does not work. So, but the thing is someone put like a cork cover in all those drainage holes, so that way the water wouldn't leak onto people who are walking under them. And because of that, water would sit in the lifeboats and rot out the keels. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that someone put their foot through the hull of the lifeboats. They were in very, very, very bad condition. Let's see. Thank you, Mark, for hiding that person. Yeah. Sammy says, I like that you're so honest when it comes to the ship, like saying some rooms can look underwhelming. I know people who are fans of the Mary and would say everything is just perfect. It's true, there's a lot of people who feel like, well, I mean, they have their opinions, but they want the ship to return to how it looked in 1967 or before. And I can understand that. But the thing is like, there are aspects of the ship, as it originally looked, that people would not have enjoyed in today's modern society. So, like, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, they should restore the third class rooms so that way people can stay in them. And of course, they're thinking of, like, the big ocean liner fans who really want to experience what it was like to be on the ship in third class. But I don't think they really understand how uncomfortable third class really was. You know, you're in this tiny cramped little space, and you're paying a lot of money to stay there, and then you have to share a bathroom with everyone else. You know, it sounds good on paper, but in real life, when you experience it and you're paying all that money to experience it, it's underwhelming. You might only do it once, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna stay in the nicer rooms from now on. You know, so, and like, I can't express enough how cramped those third class rooms were. They were like closets. They were very, very small. So there's a lot of stuff on paper that sounds good, but then when it's actually completed, people don't really realize how not good it is. So, I mean, when the ship retired in 1967, there were newspaper articles, unfortunately, that were basically saying, oh, you know, good riddance, because I'm sure all the third class people who've ever traveled aboard the ship, you know, would have loved to see the ship scrapped for how cruddy the third class experience was. You know, so unfortunately, you know, it just was not a good experience in those terms. In 1936, third class was luxurious for a ship, but by 1967, third class on Queen Mary was like just abysmal. It was just, people were shocked that in the 1960s, almost 1970 basically, because it was 3 years later, but you know, it was almost the 1970s, and there was still a ship floating around with these horrible third class spaces. You know, so that's the thing, is like, people see stuff, I don't know if this is the right term for it, but with rose-colored glasses, you know, they see it and they think, oh, that's great, that'll work really well, and they don't realize that the majority of people on this earth who would ever consider to visit the Queen Mary would not want that experience. So that's the thing. I understand the need for historical accuracy, but even as a person who enjoys historic accuracy, there is a point where too much is too much for a tourist attraction. So, but it would be nice, I've always said, that on our deck there are like a handful of third class rooms that used to be on near the lobby of the third class staircase on our deck, right outside the first class restaurant. And there was like 4, maybe 5 third class cabins on the starboard side. Those should be restored, so that way people who take tours of the area or just walk by the area can look through the doorway. The doorways can be made of plexiglass, and you can just look into the room and see what a third class room looked like. Those, I think, should be restored, but I would not want to see all the D deck and C deck third class spaces restored. It's not necessary, you know. Air Eros says, hi Alex, saw your update vid. I'm wondering about the third class dining room space, which recent photos by the Blue Ribbon show how there's work being done to it. I did not know that. Steve did not say anything to me about work being done in the third class dining room. The last work that was done to it was creating a seance space for what's his name, Aidan Sinclair. I don't imagine that they'd be doing work on it again, because that tour, that seance show thing, is still happening. So I don't know how new those photos you were looking at are. Okay, let's see here. Corey asks, do you have any plans to visit the Queen Mary for yourself? I would love to, but I don't have the money to go down there. It costs a lot of money. It would cost me $2,000 to go down there and do what I need to do to stay on the Queen Mary. I don't have that kind of money. It's just a lot. Yeah. It's unfortunate, too, because a lot of my friends are like, hey, it'd be great to see you. And I'm like, I'd love to be there. It just costs so much money. Ozzy says, Alex, how many portholes are on the Queen Mary? So, it's often said that there are 2,000 portholes, but that number may be more or less because besides portholes, that number might also be accounting for port lights. Port lights are the large square windows on the promenade deck and the rooms on the promenade deck, as well as some of the port lights on sun deck and sports deck. And those port lights, even though they're big windows, fun fact, they can withstand about 1,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. They're very strong. And the port holes themselves, they can withstand 2,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. So they're very strong. But yeah, so that number might include not just port holes, but port lights as well. Yeah. Sandy says, do you have any favorite ship book? Well, once again, I don't really discuss my favorites of things because I know a lot of these people. I know a few of the authors. I know a few of the, stuff like that. So I try not to discuss favorites because I don't want to, I don't want to corner myself into someone who does that. But I do mention my list of books that I usually refer people to. But I would say, though, that when it comes to the book I most often recommend, when it comes to the history of the ship, I usually recommend people to the book RMS Queen Mary, Queen of the Queens by William J. Duncan, which is a book I have created an audio version of on this channel. Because it's a very rare book and it hasn't been in print since 1969. So I have an audiobook version of it on my channel that I've narrated. But yeah, that book, it's not one that people would choose for pictures and stuff. It's really just more about, like, if you want to get to the heart and soul about why people love the Queen Mary, that's the book I would recommend to people. Because by the end of that book, you'll be crying. I know I was. So, yeah. And then, but there's plenty of really good books that, what am I trying to say? That really tell the story of the Queen Mary, show a lot of great pictures. So yeah. And then I was recently interviewed for just a tiny portion of the book called RMS Queen Mary, The World's Favorite Liner by David Ellery. He already had a version of a book like that, but he updated it recently, started selling it in November of last year. And then I have a little portion of it, I believe on page 223, if I remember the right number. But anyway, yeah, that's a really good book because it's got a lot of photographs. It has very detailed information about the ship and the history and stuff like that. So that's also a really good one. And then if you are interested in the engineering of the ship, the design, the construction, all of that, I would recommend the book called The Cunard White Star Quadruple Screw Liner Queen Mary by Bonanza Books. So yeah, that's a good one for the engineering. we go. Okay, Harry says, if the Oceanic was built, do you reckon that it would have been a rifle to the Queen Mary? I'm not sure what that means, but I think you're asking if it would have been a good competitor to it. It would have been a good competitor, but it would not have beat the Queen Mary. It was not designed to be as fast as the Queen Mary, and the Queen Mary would have been larger than it too, so it wouldn't have gotten the publicity of being the largest ship. So yeah, it wouldn't have even surpassed Normandy either. So it would have been a very, very fancy White Star Line ship, but it wouldn't have really made it to the papers the way Normandy or Queen Mary did. The Fat Hat says, the best way I can describe the Long Beach conversion is if you replace so much material of Abe Lincoln's hat, is it still Abe Lincoln's hat? Yeah, there's actually a term for that. It's called, oh man, great. Now it's escaped my memory. The Ship of Theseus. So it's called the Ship of Theseus. Because according to the story, Theseus, came into port. He was considered a hero and, legendary and all that. They wanted to preserve his ship. And as the years went by, the ship rotted away, so they would replace all the wood that would rot piece by piece, and it became... the metaphor is that how much of the ship is considered original if you keep replacing parts. So yeah, you could say that, but on the Queen Mary, they didn't so much replace things as they did just take it out. So there isn't too many examples of where something new was put in. It's mostly just them cutting things out. So, oops. Jeffrey says, you think Queen Mary management would cover your travel expenses since you're making content to promote them? No. I have a lot of good things to say about Queen Mary management. I really do. I am very impressed with how they're treating the ship. But I don't think they're quite interested in the idea of other people promoting the ship. You know what I mean? I mean, time will tell. But one of my suggestions to them, to the management, was that they should consider bringing in social media influencers, people specifically who are interested in history, clothing of the time, people who are interested in ocean liners, people who are interested in engineering. Those kinds of social media influencers should be invited to come to the Queen Mary, at least for severely discounted across the board, so that way they don't have to pay full price for everything, at least. And then just go there and vlog or do whatever. And then when they make their videos and stuff, it will be promotional stuff for the Queen Mary, and that will really help, because people these days, they don't watch commercials. This is no longer the age of commercials. People skip through them or just don't watch them or anything. But people will watch their favorite social media influencer go somewhere, enjoy themselves, and then they'll think, oh, I might want to try that. So that is the new advertisement these days. That's why a lot of advertisers now sponsor videos, and I've gotten so many requests for me to sponsor, or no, I'm sorry, for someone to sponsor my videos. And I don't do it because I don't. Most of the stuff that they want me to advertise to you guys, I would never use, and I don't like watching channels where like there's something that someone on the channel is promoting, and I know they don't use that. You know, there was one YouTuber who was like, "Oh, I never use VPNs because there's no need for it. I do this other thing," and they were taking like a whole episode to explain how they don't need a VPN. And then a year later, they're like being sponsored by a VPN, so they're like, "Oh, you know, I use this all the time." And I'm like, "No, you don't." Like, you would never need a VPN. You've specifically explained why you don't. So I don't like the insincerity of doing the sponsorships. Now, it'd be different maybe if like Queen Mary management approached me and said, "Hey Alex, we would love to sponsor one of your videos," or maybe they said, "We would love for you to come here and film and, you know, promote the ship and whatever, you know, and we'll provide you with a free stay or something." That's different. I'd accept that because that's something I do on this channel. I talk about the Queen Mary. But yeah, so, but I don't think they're interested in doing that, unfortunately. And I think that is a big mistake. I think they should. It doesn't have to be me. That's why I even said to the manager, I said, it doesn't have to be me. I'm like, just invite someone else, someone who's even more popular than I am, and bring them to the ship so that way they can promote it. You know, I'm like, because that's how the Queen Mary will get its you know, its advertisement. But a lot of the people, I'm not saying the manager himself, but a lot of the people working on the ship or working for the ship, they're very old-fashioned. They're very much, you know, like, oh, let's put out an ad on television kind of thing. And it's just like, that's not where people are these days, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. Time will tell, though, because back when I made all these suggestions, it was before there was a new wave of maintenance going on. So right now, in January, there's about to start a new wave of maintenance on the ship. One of those biggest projects is the repainting of the aft funnel. That's a big deal because they might not want to advertise the ship in the middle of them repainting the funnel, or else when people come, they'll see all the scaffolding and tarps up, and it won't be very, very sightly. So maybe they're waiting till spring to maybe roll out some of the suggestions I gave them. But time will tell. We'll see. Harry Morrison says, "It seems that the Queen Mary has had bad luck ever since she docked in Long Beach. The endless cycle of bad owners." Well, let's remember, they weren't owners. They were just leasing the ship. The owners was the city of Long Beach. And yeah, you could say it was bad luck because it turned out that many of them, not all of them, but many of them were just there to, you know, make money off of the ship and not give anything back. You know, they had no foresight. They had no idea what the ship was. It's easy to say, oh, it's a hotel, or oh, it's a museum. But you can't think of the Queen Mary that way. That's another thing I said to the manager recently when I had written him a list of suggestions. I said, previous operators always thought of the ship as one thing or the other. They didn't realize that the ship is all of these things at once. I told him that the closest business model to follow is an ocean liner or cruise ship. Unfortunately, I have to say cruise ship because nobody knows how to run an ocean liner these days, you know, except for Cunard. But you know, but people know what a cruise ship does, and a cruise ship is basically what Queen Mary would need to be, a stationary cruise ship. It would need to have all the shopping, dining, and entertainment all on board. and there should always be something for people to do, just like a cruise ship. And so that's what I was telling him, and so I think he agreed with that. But like I said, time will tell. We'll see if they roll out stuff. I know that they're building that. They're going to be building that new exhibit on Promenade Deck, and it's great. You know, it's like, oh, cool. People will get to see the second class smoking room again, and this time it'll have artifacts in it and stuff like that. But that's great. That's great. But let's not lose sight of the fact that people still want to see the big grand rooms that are always behind locked doors, like the first class main lounge. There should be things for people to be involved in. You know, it's one thing to stand in front of a wooden plaque that explains something. I said this to him too, by the way. I said that, you know, long gone are the days when people would stand in front of plate glass with a wooden plaque in front of them that explains what they're looking at. I'm like, people want to be hands-on these days. That's what they want. They want to touch something, be part of it. They want to interact with it. I'm like, so Queen Mary, they should be thinking of things where they can get people involved, you know? And so, yeah, we'll see. Okay. Miles High says, hi Alex, really enjoyed your Queen Mary year-end wrap-up video. Thank you so much. Ozzy says, do they still do blue ribbon I think you mean blue ribbon awards. No, they don't. Because there's no more ocean liners. So, you know, I mean, there's the Queen Mary too, but why compete? There's no one else to compete with. So there's no point in winning the blue ribbon, because first of all, the speeds required to break the record would require a much more expensive propulsion system and would guzzle fuel like crazy. It just costs so much money, and when you're not competing with anyone, why do it? So that's why they don't do it anymore. Cruise and Aviation Nerd says, I really enjoyed your January update. It was very good to see them actually caring for her, not just taking money. Yep. Thank you so much. I agree, yeah. Moonzer, John Petter was not the captain. John Petter was a, what they call a greaser, which is not the people with the combed hair and stuff like in the 1950s. He was a person that basically greases all the bearings and stuff for the moving parts of the engine spaces. And so John Petter was not a captain. He was a greaser. Corey says, what is your favorite White Star Line and CGT ships? I'm not good with abbreviations, so I don't know what CGT is. But White Star Line, my favorite White Star Line ship is the RMS Oceanic. Some people call it Oceanic 2 because it's the second one that was built. But the RMS Oceanic from 1899. That's my favorite White Star Line ship. Mr. Golden V says, apparently there are no new model kits of Queen Mary because Long Beach owns the rights to its likeness. They do. They own the rights to the Queen Mary's likeness. But that's not necessarily the reason why there aren't new model kits. From what I have learned, it's that there was never a good deal for them to accept. Because you have to make a deal, you know, like if the model kit making company wants to make a model of the Queen Mary, you know, they have to work out some kind of licensing agreement and stuff like that, and they could just never come to the right agreement, you know. So, but I heard that Long Beach does want to have a model maker make another model of the Queen Mary. In fact, I think they're right now consulting with different model makers to see if there's a way to do that. So there might be another model coming out. Who knows? Mark says, we appreciate your integrity, Alex. Really do. I hope so, because there's so many people. You know, like my friend, he's just like, you should just do sponsorships on your channel. Like, and I'm like, I don't do this just for the money. And he's like, well, you should. You could really use the money. I'm like, okay, there's no question I could really use the money, but I'm not 100% a sellout. You know, like there is a part of me that wants to be fair and do the right thing, you know, and I'm like, and I don't want to just fill the channel with advertisements for things I would never use, you know. Okay, my tea is probably too cold. Yeah. Normally I like to dip the Scottish shortbread in the tea, but it's too cold, the tea. So I'm just going to eat this like this, but... Mark says Steve is on an aircraft carrier in San Diego right now. I didn't know that. I'm surprised he doesn't tell me this stuff. Hello, Charles. Thank you so much. Alex White says, what are the very large rectangular windows below the promenade deck that have hinges called? What was their purpose? For loading supplies? There weren't any large rectangular windows with hinges. Oh, you're thinking of the A-deck lobby windows. So those were never windows originally on A-deck. Those were steel hatches, so they would close that. So that was the original way that passengers got in and out of the ship, and they were on both sides of the ship, so port and starboard. And to this day, you pass through one of those doorways when you get on the port side of the ship on A-deck. But because it's starboard side, and and that area, that purser's office area, is technically the main lobby of the Queen Mary right now, they, in the 1970s, decided to just remove the steel from those hatches and replace it with glass, so that way you could see this beautiful vista of downtown Long Beach. So that glass was not originally there, though. That was a steel hatch for loading first-class passengers. I've been wanting to do an overnight stay aboard the Queen Mary, but their website is hopeless. It doesn't show availability and will only show inside windowless cabins and no rates. Yeah. Firstly, there's two reasons for that. One is because the rooms have been booking out. That's one of the reasons why. So only the small windowless cabins are the ones that aren't really booking out as much. Everything else is booking out. That's how popular the ship is right now. But very soon, another 100 rooms should be coming online, and that should open up more space for people to stay aboard the ship. So that's one of the reasons why you don't see available rooms. But the reason why you don't see room rates is because it doesn't tell you. They're very smart about this when it comes to how they're going to charge you money. But basically, you have to put in the day that you're planning to stay there and the day that you're planning to leave. That way it can calculate it for you. And then it tells you the room rate. If it doesn't tell you the room rate even then, it probably means the room is booked out. So the rooms have been booking out like crazy. That's how popular the ship is right now. So that's probably why you're not seeing anything. Oh, Corey says CGT is the French line. Okay, then I guess my favorite CGT ship is the SS France from 1912. Harry says, I like the music in the background. Thank you. That's from my friend's channel, Henry Hall Fan. So there's a link in the description to his channel. He has all kinds of historic music and stuff like that. It's really great. Oh, dear Lord. You know, there are some people in this world who just don't have a life and they want to ruin yours because theirs isn't fun enough. Just stop focusing on me. However much you hate me, and this goes for all the people who do hate me, however much you hate me, just focus on yourself. Do your own thing. Find what in life helps bring you up and helps give you new opportunities. You know, there are people in my past who I don't get along with, but if I had stuck around and then just kept pestering them all my life, I'd never get anything done with my life. I am where I am because I move on, I find something new to do, I find something positive to do with my life. So however much you hate me, just do something in your life that is positive, that helps other people, that brings them up, that encourages them to do great things for society and for people. You know, if you think I'm an evil person who's pretending to be a nice person, I don't know that I can convince you otherwise. I'm not an evil person. I'm a flawed person, but I'm not evil. And the thing is sometimes I make mistakes, sometimes I do things on purpose. But mostly, what I've dedicated my life to doing is to try to encourage people to live the best life that they can and to make the best decisions that they can. So however much you hate me, just focus on your life. Try to do something positive with it and encourage other people to do good things. If you have to use me as a bad example for that and just go, oh, I'm not going to do what he does, then do that. But I don't understand the need to keep coming back to my channel and then just keep poking. What's the point? I don't get it. You're wasting your time because I'm never ever going to, directly pick a fight with you. That's not how I do things. I don't pick fights with people. I live my life. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Sorry about that, folks. It's just, I don't understand people, even when I was a kid and there were school bullies, I used to tell them the same thing. This is exactly what I said to school bullies when I was a kid. I was like, why are you even bothering with me? Why don't you focus on something that's much more entertaining and better for you? Why don't you focus on something that helps lift you up and do something better with your life? I never understood why people would bother to just pester people, So it's just I don't understand it. I don't have a competitive bone in my body. That's why I don't do sports or anything like that, because I don't compete with people. I don't see a point to it. And so that's one of those things where it's when I see people who are they're angry with me and they want to get back at me for something, I don't understand it because I'm like, I don't see why that is worth your time. You know what I mean? That's why I don't go out and like, and troll people or anything like that when I hate somebody, which I don't hate people, but that's why I don't do that, is because I don't see a point to it. There's so many better things I could be doing with my day. Like, I'd rather go on a walk than to, like, get mad at somebody and pick a fight with them. Like, I'd rather just do something fun, So I've never understood it. Mouse House, yes, I have been ignoring this person, but ignoring them has not helped. This person has been coming back for 8 months. Nothing I do to ignore them stops them. And frankly, I don't pick fights with them. I don't. I had to say this because I just want them to... I want them to be happy. They're obviously not happy. They're maybe they think I insulted them. Maybe they think I'm an evil person. I don't know. But they're not happy. I want them to be happy. I want them to be able to wake up every morning and go, this is a great day. I'm going to go do something fun. Instead of, oh, this is a terrible day. I'm going to go to Alex's channel and show him how evil he is. Like, I don't, I don't get it. Like, why bother with me? Why waste your time with me? It doesn't do anything. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Like 8 months. Like, who does that? Like 8 months. Who does that? And this person's only digging themselves into a deeper legal hole because they've been doing illegal things to bother me for 8 months. And I've been just building the case against them. So that way when they finally do something that's just takes the cake, I'll just sue them. But I don't want to sue them. That's not what I want to do with my life. I have much better things I'd rather do. But I will, if I have to. But it'd be great, again, talking to this person who's obviously still watching. Just don't dig yourself into this hole. Don't do that. Go do something better. Forget me. Ignore me, Because if you keep doing this, I am gonna sue you. There are people who will find you, dude. There are legal teams who their job is to research whoever's making false accounts and then find the person who's doing that, and then you get sued. I've looked it up because I've considered doing it to you, dude. For 8 months, you've been harassing me. 8 months. This isn't just a normal, like, oh, I hate Alex and, I'm just going to bother him, like, kind of like harassment, you guys. This has been like someone threatening me, harassing me. That's how bad it's gotten. So, yeah, I'm giving you the opportunity, whoever you are, I know who you are, but I'm giving you the opportunity to walk away now before it gets worse. And just live your life. Do something fun. Do something nice. Help people. Help yourself. Whatever you need to do. But don't do this. You're digging yourself into a really deep hole, and it's going to be very easy for you to fall in, because it will turn into a legal issue. So, yeah, I'm giving you the opportunity now, dude. Please. It's been 8 months. Yeah. So, sorry about that, you guys. I'm sorry you have to be dragged into that. If it was a regular troll, I do what I normally do, which is I just block them, and that's what I do. But 3 times today in this live stream I've had to block this person, because they just come back. They make a new account and they come back. And I know it's the same person. So, it's just like... I can't say too much about how I know, because right now it is a building legal issue right now. It's building up. So saved everything that they've ever said to me. Save everything. And then I put it into my legal file. So, but yeah, 8 months of threats, of harassment, of constant pestering, you know. So they've made videos about how they wish I would die and stuff like that. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. It's turned into that far. And I don't want this person to ruin their life that way, because it will ruin their life, you know. I don't want to sue people. I'd rather not. It's just, you know, but if it gets to that, I'm going to have to do it. So, yeah. Anyway. But yeah. There's a lot of trolls on this channel that I've ignored, and then they go away because they're like, oh, it's not worth it, you know, kind of thing. And that's usually how it goes. But this is one person who's never let up. Never let up. And like I said, you know, maybe they're getting happy because they're like, oh, yeah, it's bothering Alex. But once again, it's not just bothering me. They're building up a legal case against them. And it'll be very easy to find them. They think that if they keep making up different names, that they'll get away from it. But the thing is, everything you do on the internet is saved forever. And there are legal teams whose job it is to find people who harass other people online, who make up false accounts. There are legal teams who do that. You can Google it. There are legal teams who do that, and I will hire one of them to do that. So that's what I'm just saying. It's just here's your chance. Do something better with your life. Go outside. Go have some fun. I know that you like trains. Go out and go watch some trains and stuff, you know? You love doing that. Go do that, you know? Don't be here doing this. Don't dig yourself into a deeper hole. So, yeah. Alright, folks. I am going to get going, though, because it's been an hour and a half, and I think we're kind of running out of things to talk about. But anywho, I do need to work more on the big surprise I was working on for you guys, as well as work on the video for next week, which the video for next week is going to be about, let's see, about ocean liners returning to the sea. So I know it's been kind of like a topic where everybody's just kind of made up their mind about it, but that's one of those things where it's like, I think there might actually be an argument to be made that they'll come back eventually, just in a smaller numbers. So yeah, I've got a video about that coming out, and then later this month there will be videos. Let's see, there will be a video of the Queen Mary virtual tour. So just like I did in 2021, where I released a video of like a virtual tour of Queen Mary where I narrated the whole thing and talked about the history and all the stuff you're looking at and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to redo that with a lot more spaces that were not captured originally. All new audio, all new updated information that is a lot more accurate. And it'll be a lot more fun. And in that video, hopefully I can do this on time, but in that video will also be the reveal of the big surprise. And so you guys should be able to check it out after the video and stuff like that. So, yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you all so much to those who are so positive and so supporting on this channel. I never forget you guys. And all the folks who have been really good online friends, who have just, you know, been able to hold conversations with me about Queen Mary, about all kinds of stuff. Thank you guys so much. It's been really, really great. So, I will see you all, let's see, I think I can do Saturday next week. I think that's reasonable. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.